What's going on, everybody? It's February 13th, Monday. Just out here in the garage, kind of piddling. Still haven't been fishing again since the one trip that I took last weekend, but that's okay. We'll be going more than we can stand it here before too long. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, but to be 100% honest, I was a little embarrassed to make it. And here's why. When it comes to my gear, not my kayak, not my tackle, line, things like that. But when it comes to my gear, I'm a cheapskate. Don't tell anybody, but I just am. Part of that is just because I don't have maybe the means that some other people do that may go out and spend a whole lot of money on a rod and reel and stuff like that. And other parts of it is I just, there's going to be a lot of people in this video that are going to have a lot of things to say about this, because this is a sort of divisive topic. But, but let me say this about it. I fish in a very competitive kayak club. There are some real deal hammers in this club. And me, with my cheapo gear, won Angler of the Year last year in this club. I don't feel like that, I should be embarrassed about the stuff that I use. Obviously, it worked. I mean, if I would have used more expensive gear, would I have won it by more? I don't think so. You guys watched all my videos last year. I lose some fish now and then, but rarely do I attribute it to gear, if ever. So I'm not going to apologize for it anymore. I'm cheap and I use cheap gear, and it is what it is. So on this video, I'm going to give you guys sort of a crash course in my favorite cheap stuff and what I use. Now, I don't use everything cheap, but relative to the majority of the tournament anglers out there, I'd say I am in the bottom 20%, as far as, probably worse than that, as far as money spent on gear. So we're going to go through a few of these things, and I will say this, I still haven't done very well in a national tournament, but as you guys have seen, honestly, I don't attribute that to any gear. It's not like I've had the bites. It's not like I've had the fish on and just lost them. I just haven't made good decisions, or didn't know that wasn't in the right place. So that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I use cheap gear, and this is some of that cheap gear that I use. Hang on, I'll go get some stuff. Matter of fact, not to toot my own horn, but toot a little bit. See all these plaques back behind me? All those were won with cheap gear. Some of the cheapest gear that you can get. So the other night, I thought, it's time to replace some of this cheap gear. Some of this gear I've had for 4 or 5 years, and never cleaned it, never touched it. Just take it fishing with me on a normal tournament schedule, and just cast and wind and chunk and wind, and then put it up wet or dry, get it out the next time, and it keeps on going. So, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go get me some new stuff. So I went to Walmart. And I got 5 new reels. Cheap old Black Maxes. Look at how cheap. Yeah, they are. They're like 46 bucks, 47 bucks. And I bought 5 of them. If they last like all the rest of them, they're 6:4 to 1 gear ratio. If they suck, if they break, they go in the trash. But I don't know how many I've had that don't break. They're good. So if you need just a utilitarian reel, if you're not looking for anything too high speed, get out there and get you some of these. They might not cast as far as some of the other reels, and you kind of may need to work with the brakes and the spool tensioner a little bit to keep it from backlashing. But it is what it is. 5 of them for, let's see, I think my total counting tax and everything was like 280 bucks for 5 reels. So there we go. Now, I use a lot of those. I'm gonna tell you guys a little secret though. If you're going cheap, I'm gonna say right now, cheap Abu Garcia stuff is better than cheap Lewis stuff. Coming from a cheapness connoisseur, trust me on that. So, here we go. This is what I throw my Fluke on. This is a 7-foot, medium heavy, fast action rod. This is a Lewis Xfinity speed stick. Got that for 29 bucks at Walmart. Love it. I like to throw a little bit of a faster reel. Now, I will say this reel hasn't been my favorite. Again, cheap Lewis. But it's a 7.5 to 1. Sometimes they come up and hit it from the back end. And when they do, you got to catch up with them. So maybe I need a little bit faster reel. But I don't know. You guys have seen me catch a lot of fish on a Fluke. So there's that one. This one is another one of those same rods. I happened to buy 2 of them because they were on sale for 29 bucks. I like a little backbone, which this has, but it's got a nice tip, which it is great. For my Fluke, I like to set the hook on the fish. When the fish eat it, I like to set the hook. With the buzzbait, when they come up and eat it, I like to set the hook with my buzzbait. This is on a Daiwa. This reel is a Daiwa CC80. I've only had this reel for about a season, but I used it a lot and I really like it. This reel will run you about 60 bucks on Tackle Warehouse, but it is a 7.5 to 1 gear ratio. And I don't like to just sit there and have to really crank real hard to keep my buzzbait on top of the water. So I like to be able to slow down a little bit. That's why I throw my buzzbait on that. Now these rods are a little different. And I've got 3 of them. And I use them for different things. Shaky Head, drop shot, Ned rig, all that kind of stuff. I'm the type, I don't like to do what the pros say. I know that sounds like the most foolish statement of all time, but I'll say this. Also, by the way, if there's a book written about how to go bass fishing, I break most of those rules, but it's what works for me, so I don't care. It works for me. Now, these are Bass Pro Shop's Pro Qualifier 2 spinning rods. I use a medium heavy spinning rod because I let the drag on the reel do the work. Again, these are just cheap Abu Garcia reels. They cost me 40, 50 bucks. The rod is about 90. I think I got all 3 of them when they were on sale. But the reason I have this one is because it's got some pretty good feel to it. It doesn't have as much feel as, you know, some G Loomis or some those new Xenons from Abu Garcia or something like that. I wouldn't imagine. I haven't ever thrown one, but I can feel everything I need to feel on this. But when the rods that I'm dragging on the bottom that I have to have a little feel with, I like to use a little bit more of an expensive rod. But like I said, relative, these are fine. I like them a lot. They have held up for 2 or 3 years. And out where I used to live on that lake, I have caught dozens, multiple dozens of 5 and 6 pound fish on these with these cheap Abu Garcia reels. They work just fine. So I use that on my drop shot Ned rig, Shaky Head. I love to throw a Shaky Head. You guys have seen me throw a Shaky Head a lot. I like to set the hook. I like to feel the hook penetrate the fish's mouth. And then once I get the fish hooked, I like to let the drag do the work. So if that's what I like to do. And it works for me. Maybe not so much for some of you. I know a lot of what it shows on TV, they just reel into it. It's not my thing. I like to set the hook with some authority. Let me grab another rod real quick. Okay, so I will say the one rod that's a spinning rod that is a little different. It's not a medium heavy, and it's a medium, and that's what I throw my weightless wacky worms on. I feel like that for me, I can skip a wacky worm with a medium power rod a little bit better than I can a medium heavy. I don't know if it's just that little extra whip action from the rod being a little bit more flexible. I'm not sure, but it seems like it works for me better. My favorite rod for a wacky worm that I had for quite some time, I actually broke it. It broke like rods do. So anyway, I need to find me another one. This is one of those cheap lose ones that was like 30 bucks at Walmart. I don't love it for that, but it's gotten me through. Caught me a couple of good smallmouth on 10 killer that ended up going in my final bag. So anyway, that's what I do with my wacky worms. But as far as spinning rods go, the other stuff that I drag on the bottom, Ned rig, drop shot, Shaky Head, is all medium heavy. And those, like I said, those are Bass Pro Shop Pro Qualifier 2 rods, and those are about as expensive of rods as I own. Okay, maybe not the most expensive rods I own. There's another one or two. Okay, this is one of my favorite finds, and I actually didn't find this. I have to give credit to Dwayne Beatty for this. This is an AllStar rod, which Academy carries the AllStar line, but this is an inshore saltwater rod. It is a 7-foot medium moderate rod, and this is about as good of like a square bill, maybe a small medium diver, like a wart, something like that. That's about as good of a rod for those as you can get. It is very parabolic. It's made for saltwater inshore fishing, but somebody forgot to tell the fish that, because they'll still eat it when it's on this rod. This rod, if you can find them, they're hard to find now. You may have to order them through Academy, but if you can find them, this rod's about 55 bucks, and it's a great shallow cranking rod. Something with treble hooks that you crank shallow. So there's that. This is a Shimano Cellus rod. It's another cheapo rod from, I bought these from Tackle Warehouse. They were about 50 bucks a piece. Jury's still out on these. I've tried them with a few techniques that I don't love, but right now I've got it on my jerkbait because it's got a fast tip. It's a medium heavy rod, but it doesn't have a ton of backbone. So but it's got some backbone, more than like a cranking rod. So I feel like I don't have to really pull hard as much as when I'm working a jerk bait, I don't have to pull it as hard or jerk it as hard as I do with like a cranking rod. So I got that part of it with the backbone, but it's soft enough that it does have treble hooks and I don't feel like I tear it out of their mouth. I throw this on, this happens to be an Abu Garcia Silver Max instead of a Black Max. They must have just had those on sale. They're probably about the same price, but I've thrown, these reels are just as good as those and they last a long time and I like them. Here's another cranking rod. I use this one. This one's a little bit more, for a little bit more of a deeper crankbait bite. This is a Daiwa Air D, not sure, AIRD Coastal. It's also a saltwater inshore fishing rod. If you're not looking in the saltwater sections of the rods, inshore fishing rods, then you're missing out on the best crankbait rods that you can get for cheap. This is about 50 bucks. Same kind of reel, also about 50 bucks. And this is a medium heavy instead of a medium. So I actually like this one for throwing a little bit like bigger. I don't deep crank at all, but like rock crawlers, something bigger than that. Even I've got it right now on a 1/2 ounce slipless. But anyway, yeah, I like this rod, not as much as the other one, but I do like it. But anyway, it's another good cranking rod. So check your inshore saltwater selections whenever you're trying to find a cranking rod. You might be surprised. This one, you guys have seen me catch a lot of fish on this plopper style bait right here, and a lot of big fish. Again, we have it paired with the exceptional Abu Garcia Walmart special. This is a Berkeley cherry wood bait casting rod. This was about 19 bucks at Walmart. It's actually a 7-foot medium heavy, but it is kind of gutless. It's got a little backbone, but it not really. It just kind of looks like it does. It's kind of more flexible than that. It's almost like a medium that's a little bit thicker. And the good part about that is that I don't pull the treble hooks out of the fish's mouth. But this is my exclusive plopper style bait rod. Every time I throw a plopper, it's on this rod. I used to throw it on a different rod a couple years ago. This rod, is sole purpose is for ploppers. And when the reel's only 50 bucks and the rod's only like 20, you can stand to have stuff like this around that's just specific for one thing. Now, I got a couple of these. This is my rod that I throw my jig on, and I have another one over there that I will throw a Texas rig. Sometimes I'll throw a frog on it. This is a Dobbins. It's the most expensive rod I have. This rod was about 120 bucks, and it is a 7-foot heavy, and I like it because I can feel the bottom with it way better than I can some of these other ones. If you'll notice, anything that I like to feel the bottom with, even still in relative terms, it's still cheap, but it's not as cheap as some of the other ones I use. If I'm chunking and winding, these rods, 50, 60 bucks. These, something with a little bit more backbone that I throw a jig on. And I have this actually paired with a Lose Classic. It is like a $60 reel. It's fine. I've had one of these immediately out of the box within the first trip. The gear started stripping on it. So I sent it back. They gave me another one. And I haven't had any issues with it, but still, it was like 1 for 3 on these have been kind of not great. So like I said, if you're going to go cheap Abu. But yeah, I I like this rod a lot. I have no idea what it feels like to have like a $300 or $400 fishing rod in my hand, so I don't know any difference, but it's worked so far. And then lastly, you guys have seen me throw a spinnerbait as much as you've seen me throw just about anything. This is a Shimano Cellus, and it is a 7'2", medium heavy, fast action rod. And I have it with that Daiwa, one of those new Daiwa reels that I bought last year. That's a 7.5 to 1. This rod, $50. It's the best rod, one of my favorite rods. I have beat this thing just to oblivion. But the problem is they don't make them like this anymore. So I'm gonna have to go to eBay and I'm gonna have to try to find one. It says on there like worm and jig. My PB on Lake Fork actually came on this rod. It was almost 25 inches long. I was throwing a jig on this rod. Skinny, but it was almost 25 inches long. So anyway, now it's exclusively my spinnerbait rod. If you guys have watched my videos, you know this is what I throw all the time. So I need to get me another one or two, see if I can find some on eBay. So y'all, that was a pretty long video, and a lot of you guys are going to consider that incredibly boring. But the ones that maybe are sort of like me and maybe don't want to spend that much money on one rod and one reel, listen, it's not gonna not hurt if I lose one of these or pitch it over the side or drop it in the lake or break it. It's not. But I promise you, I don't have to even think about it. If I lost that, I just went and bought 5 more of these and I could get another one of those, most of those, in the mail within a few days, and it's gonna cost me $100. That's $100, which that's nothing to sneeze at. But it's not 400 or 300, and I've never felt like I needed it. So I might be missing out. Maybe I could just catch all the fish if I had better equipment. But so far, mine's done me just fine. So anyway, if any of you have any questions, I'm not gonna link every single rod and reel down in the description. But if you have questions about a specific one, just mention it in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to send you a link. And if they still have them, I don't know. But anyway, guys, hopefully I can get back out on the water here again pretty soon. I know in the next 3 days it's going to be thunderstorming around here, but I'd like to get out on the water one more time. So we'll see. I need to get that motor back out, and now that I've lowered it down, and see if it runs a little bit smoother. So anyway, I know this was a long video, but maybe somebody out there who doesn't want to go drop $400 on a combo could benefit from it. So anyway, don't be embarrassed. I was for a long time, because I felt like that if I didn't have the right stuff, that I wasn't as good as other people. That's not true. You just fish with whatever you feel comfortable with, do the best you can. So anyway, guys, I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.